Hello members, welcome to behind the scenes of the Snapchick Summertime Bikini Photo Project 2018. And I have some notes on different things, editing, inspiration, challenges, all that stuff that I will use as a cheat sheet during this video. The photo shoot actually took place about 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't do any real filming like where I was talking to you during the photo shoot because it was so windy. It's actually windy right now, but it was way windier than it is right now where I was. So couldn't get any audio, but I did get some action camera footage of me posing and stuff while the photos were being taken. So I'll put some of that in here. Anyway, let's start with the inspiration of the shoot was so it started with this photo. I saw this photo in a magazine several years ago. As many of you know, if you've been around for a while, I use magazines as a source of inspiration, kind of as a jumping off point for my own ideas. And I had the Texture app for a real long time. It's a magazine subscription. I just got rid of it last week. And I've been using Amazon Prime, the magazines that you can get on Amazon Prime just for free, but they aren't as good, and I'm actually pretty disappointed. I should have kept Texture because I've had it for years, so I had a good deal on it. Oh well. Maybe I'll go to the library or something and look at the fashion magazines. That's a tip for you if you don't want to, pay for the magazine subscriptions or whatever. A lot of your libraries have stuff, and you might feel a little strange looking at a fashion magazine if that's not what you're used to. I always feel a little strange looking at fashion magazines because I'm like, I don't know, I'm not that into fashion. I guess I used to be. Anyway, long story. Anyway, this photo came from a magazine on Texture. I just took a little screenshot of it, and I just really liked the look of it. I liked the very classic look in these kind of, retro bikinis, and I just thought it would be really cute. And this shoot was at an indoor pool, and I thought that would be really cool. And I liked the juxtaposition of these very classic, fancy, dressy girls at a public pool, or a gym pool or something. But I liked the idea of that, but I didn't want to totally copy the idea, and that location isn't available to me. So I kind of started with some different iterations. I thought it would be funny if I was in this classic retro look, very Marilyn Monroe pinup style, in the backyard with a little baby pool. That would be kind of funny. And I was thinking a lawn chair and a glass of champagne and, red lipstick and stuff like that. And the problem was finding a backyard with a green lawn that was in my head. And I just didn't really have that available to me either. So I kind of had this other idea for a desert shoot, and it was going to be called, No Water in Sight, but it was going to be, I just realized the sun's poking through, and I don't know what exposure is going to do. I'm sorry, guys. So anyway, this other idea that I had that was going to be more literal, I was going to be more in cowboy hat, type of a thing. And I thought, well, let me mash these two together. So the iterations kind of kept coming, and I was towing the line between having a juxtaposition that is a juxtaposition, it doesn't totally make sense, but also wasn't something that totally didn't make sense either. Do you know what I mean? There's a line in there somewhere. There's a gray area where a juxtaposition works and where it goes too far for me for this type of shoot. So since I did want kind of a commercial kind of a look, I ended up with what I ended up with. Desert, kind of fun, kind of a fun look for me, bright bathing suit, bright lipstick, bright nail polish, flamingos. And I'll get into what the rest of the props were in just a minute, but that's how it came to be. The gear that we used, I chose the D810 and the 70-200 f2.8 lens. I chose that setup because I wanted Raymond, who was taking the photos for me, to be able to back way up and zoom in to get a good perspective on me, because I'm in a bathing suit. Like, I want as natural perspective as I can get. I don't want anything looking, you know, bigger than it should, meaning my butt. And let's see what else. Also used the Mavic for that one shot that you saw in the previous video. That was before I had my new Mavic. That was the original Mavic Pro. And also I used the SJ7 Star action camera. I will put links to those things. Actually, I'll put links to my reviews of the Mavic and the SJ7 Star. The SJ7 Star is one of my favorite action cameras that I've ever used. It's my favorite action camera. That and its predecessor, I really liked. This week I'm receiving a new one, an SJ8 Pro. So I'm really excited. SJ Cam has been pretty awesome to send me. They've sent me, I think this will be my third action camera from them. Yeah, and they're good. So yeah, that was the gear. Use natural light. Props, the baby pool, 5 gallons of water, which you didn't even really see in the vast majority of the photos. Lawn chair. I actually had 2 lawn chairs. I got them on clearance at Target because it was kind of the end of the season, and I thought, you know, these are things that I think I might actually use again, either in pictures or just, you know, camping or something. So I went ahead and purchased them. I purchased these in particular because or the one that ended up in the photos. I purchased that one because I thought it was funny, because it was very my childhood, you know, early 80s kind of a look with the straps and stuff. So I thought that was cool. Picnic blanket, excuse me, which I'm sitting on now. I kind of felt like had that same sort of retro appeal to me. And then the pink flamingos. I had a challenge with those, which I'll tell you in a minute. Let's move on to challenges, shall we? The challenges were that, let me check the time that I've been filming this. Okay, just making sure. Okay, challenges. Inconsistent lighting. Dealing with natural lighting. It had, when we first got there and we were setting up, there was this really nice muted lighting, and it was just really nice and even. And then the sun kind of came out from behind the clouds and it got a little bit harsh. The first bunch of photos are like that. So I kind of played to that. I was like lounging back in the chair. I was, you know, sunbathing. And those actually ended up working well. Those wouldn't have worked well for like close-up shots because it just would have looked too harsh, but it worked for for those photos that we did while it was super sunny. Then luckily the clouds kind of came back in and the lighting got more even. My initial thought was that these photos would look very bright and sunny. So those first ones did work out like that. Later on, it didn't quite so much, but I think kind of that lightheartedness that the sunlight would have brought to the images, I think I still retained that. So anyway, you'll see in a minute. Other challenges. Tan lines. Yeah. Getting into a bathing suit, I don't like lay out and sunbathe in my bathing suit. So I have tan lines bad from cycling, from running, from hiking. And I had not too long prior come off of a trip, that Colorado Plateau field trip, where I was outside like all day, every day, in the sun in shorts. So I had these tan lines all over the place. I got a spray tan, but yeah, that only goes so far. So anyway, oh well. People always comment on that when I do photo shoots and you can see my tan lines. People always say, oh, you should have gone to the tanning salon. But you know what? I have tan lines. Wind. The wind. It was so windy. Like, I could not believe it. In fact, when I took the drone up, almost immediately there was a wind advisory on my phone. So I just brought it right back down. But it was so windy. Like everything was blowing around. We held the, I held the blanket down with a bunch of rocks that I found. The flamingos, I don't know how we got those to stand up. Oh, yeah, I do. We stuck them in the empty gallon jugs with a little bit of water in the bottom and stuck those jugs behind the baby pool so that you couldn't totally see the jugs, but the flamingos stayed up. The other reason we had to do that was because the ground was really hard. It was like rock where we were. So it was kind of just a big slab of stone. So you can't stick a little metal stick into the stone. Also, the wind is also difficult because of my hair and trying to like work with it so that it's not, the wind isn't blowing my hair straight forward, the wind isn't blowing my hair straight back. You know, there are so many photos that I had to get rid of where my hair is doing something funny. It's in front of my face or whatever. Oh well, that's just something that you deal with. And it's kind of almost by attrition. Like you just keep taking photos until like you get one where your hair isn't everywhere. Or the model's hair isn't everywhere. Okay. Okay, the last challenge that I noted down was something that I talked about in the retrospective that you can get to at the link down in the description below. It's right at the very top of the description. There's always a challenge for me to be the model because I'm never fully comfortable as the model, even after doing it for nearly 9 years now. It still has never quite sat very well with me. So in addition to that being in a bathing suit, it's just not something I ever imagined that I would do. When I was a kid, I remember people saying, you're going to be a model when you grow up. And then like, I'm not a model. Like I'm not a tall, leggy, model type. So I'm shortish and compact. So putting myself in a bathing suit in front of the camera is always a bit of an emotional challenge. And then on top of that, I'm not comfortable being seen modeling usually. So I usually try to go somewhere where people aren't. And that's what I did in this case. Last year, and I talked about this during the retrospective, last year I was on a public beach and there were people all over the place. So that was interesting. Watch that retrospective if you're curious about my process in general for these and more like broad challenges and stuff like that. I talk about those things. I'm moving on to the photos themselves, the look and the feel. I wanted the end result to look kind of surreal, maybe a little dreamy. I definitely wanted that juxtaposition, so that I guess that's more subject matter, but then like with the editing and kind of the surroundings and everything played into it, kind of having that surreal kind of a quality. I also wanted to maintain warmth when I was editing them. So, you can throw a filter on, a photo and make it look vintage or make it look kind of dreamy. But I wanted to make sure that there was also this warmth because I did want it to be summertime. I'm in the sun, I'm sunbathing, I wanted it to be all very warm feeling. So what I did to achieve that is that what did I write down here? Okay. So what I did to achieve that is that I really didn't do any initial editing to the photos other than maybe straightening them, or a couple of them I had to crop a little bit. But then what I did is I pulled them into the Nik filter sets that I have. I used Color Efex Pro 4 and the skin smoothing for a few of them, and there's a reason for that, because I don't typically like to do a lot of skin smoothing. I kind of feel like I look like I look, and I think skin smoothing can go overboard. I'm not against like spotting out any blemishes that I have, or in fact, in this photo shoot, I had a couple of bug bites on my arm and I spotted those out. My tag was hanging out in a couple of them. In one of them, I spotted that out. So there were those things that I did, but I pulled them into skin smoothing because the next step that I did was pull them into the Nik Analog Efex Pro 2. and that kind of simulates a film look. So I found one that I liked just by kind of going through them and modified that filter a little bit. That's what I like about those NIC filters. Frankly, I'm not even sure they're available anymore. They got bought, and I think they are available. But anyway, I'll put if they are available, I'll put a link to them down below. But in these filters, they do have this film look, but a result of these filters is often that skin ends up looking really grainy, kind of. All of those fine details pop out. So any freckles, dark circles, which I always have under my eyes, they always really, really pop out, like way more than in real life. So I knew that was going to happen. So I went ahead and did the skin smoothing just a little bit to kind of smooth things out so that then when details came out, it looked a little more natural. And that is what happened. My skin looked a lot more natural than it would have had I not done the skin smoothing first. So that's just something that I knew was going to happen because I've used the filter set a lot. So, and then that was pretty much it. The one other thing I did is there's control points in those filters, and I did use, I'm sorry, my foot's falling asleep. I did use some control points on my face on a few of the images to brighten it up just a little bit. But that was it. Really not a lot that I did. You know, I don't always like to put filters on my images, but they really worked for this one. It maintained that, the warmth, but I got that surreal quality that I wanted. So yeah, that's about it, everybody. So I'm going to leave you with the gallery right now, and thanks everybody for your support. If you haven't seen the video that I made for everybody there, I'll put a link to that down below as well, and also to that bikini retrospective. So that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching.